Hey everyone, Rob Van Dyson here again. Today is the 9th of August. Once again, that's the 9th of August, 2020. I'm recording this a little bit later than I usually do. We had some family stuff going on. But I'm back up here at Hobble Creek. In a lot of ways, this has been an interesting week. In a good way. Nothing really bad happened. No walls dropped on me or anything like that. But yesterday, I ended up helping my sister-in-law move up to Idaho. So I spent pretty much the entire day on the road, which actually I found enjoyable. My wife was supposed to be with me, but she wasn't feeling well, so she ended up staying behind, which is probably, both of us think it turned out for the best. And I had some podcasts and stuff that I listened to. Overall, a very enjoyable time. So, on that drive, I actually was able to listen to a D&D podcast. I listened to some other podcasts that I might talk about, but for those of you unfamiliar with it, D&D stands for Dungeons & Dragons. It's what they refer to as a tabletop role-playing game, a TTRPG. And it's a form of entertainment that I actually really enjoy. And due to circumstances, I haven't been able to play very much. I actually haven't been able to play at all for a while. But listening to this group play, it was actually able to kind of scratch that itch a little bit. Not fully, but there's nothing like, doing it for real, yourself. But I was able to scratch that itch a little bit. And the nice thing is that these particular podcasts usually last in the range of 3 to 4 hours. And I had a couple that I was backlogged on that I was able to listen to, and I'm actually still kind of working my way through their most recent one. And, excuse me. One thing that just kind of occurred to me while I was sitting here thinking about it, actually kind of listening to that podcast, was, yeah, it's not the same as sitting down and actually playing. But it did allow me to kind of scratch that itch. And one of the problems that we all have, especially those of us who are actually trying to chase dreams and stuff like that, is the limitation of time. We all only have 24 hours in a day, 7 days in a week, depending on the month, how many days in that month. 365 days a year. And it's often been lamented by people who want to do a lot of things, myself included, that there just really isn't time, and that you always have to prioritize, certain things. Do I want to go through and do this one thing, which is going to take, a chunk of time, that could be used doing other things? And if you've listened to just about every successful person I've listened to, have had to make those decisions. I can do this or I can do that. And there's certain things you can do to quote unquote make time. You can get up earlier, stay up later. You can, but even that has its limits. The human body does require sleep. And you can only push yourself so far before you actually start getting the degradation of your performances and other things. Actually, in everything. And eventually your body will just crash. And while certain people can get by with more sleep, some people need less sleep. sleep is something that's important. But with some of these things, and playing Dungeons and Dragons when you're trying to pursue other dreams is a rather low priority. Doesn't mean that it doesn't create an itch in you, something you want to do. And to look around, maybe there's other ways where you can scratch that itch, maybe just a little. Maybe not get the full session. In my case, sitting down with a bunch of friends and role-playing and playing Dungeons and Dragons. I miss it. But you don't necessarily always have to give it up completely. Oftentimes you can find something else that will scratch that itch that's not so time intensive. And this podcast I listen to they have a video stream, which is a more enjoyable way of watching it. But then again, you're watching a video stream once a week for 3 to 4 hours. Or you can just podcast it, and I can do that while I'm doing other things that don't require my mental attention. Or my full mental attention like that. I could listen to this podcast while I was driving. I can listen to this podcast, and I have listened to this podcast while I was working. And, it just kind of helps scratch that itch. So I think the takeaway from this video, it's probably going to be a short video because I'm exhausted. I want to go home and get some rest. But is, first and foremost, take a look at everything in that you want to do. And then you have to prioritize it. And obviously the higher priority things are going to require time more than the lower priorities. I'm going to go ahead and pause this because we have people coming by, but actually, I'm just going to go ahead and finish this out here real quick. Like I said, this will be a short one. But you'll listen to some people and they're like, yeah, cut out everything that's not essential to this one goal. I actually don't think that's the right course. I think you need to prioritize it and put the majority. And yeah, sometimes you will have to put something on hold. But you don't have to completely get rid of it. And if you can, take a look and say, all right, well, I want to do X, and X is going to require this much time, which I can't justify giving. Or if I do give it to that, I'm going to not have time to fully invest or to do these other things which are more important. And evaluate it. Is it something that you can just put on hold? And when you hit that a major milestone, it'll free up time? Or is it something where you can just scratch the itch in a little way? Just give yourself a little bit of a scratch on there. Anyways, that's about all I have to say today. Alright. Oh, and for those of you wondering, no, my wife still hasn't responded, so I don't think she's watched the last video. Alright, been nice and out.